Greens brothers, today I want to talk to you about Angelic Inheritors and some of the stuff I learned after running them to a GT. I did have fun playing at this GT, but I also feel like there was a couple of games that really didn't go well for me. So I want to explain some of the things I did, some of the problems that I had running this Angelic Inheritors list. If you didn't see the video that I shared last week, then I did play this precise list and I did cover how I played Liberator Assault Group last week. So it was the double Vindicator tank. There's a Tech Marine Ballistic Dreadnought Land Raider, regular Land Raider with all the las cannons, a unit of Scouts, a unit of Infiltrators, Combi Weapon Lieutenant, three 3-man squads of Sandguard, 2 led by Captain, 1 led by Dante, 1 Chaplain led by, leading 3 Blade Guard, a unit of Outriders, and the lonesome Blade Guard Ancient. 45 points. He's going to be in reserve. He's going to try and score some points. So this was the list. You can read about it here. You can see my various war gear options. There's not too much war gear in it, but it was a pretty simple list. I think Land Raider is the one unit that is not competitive. If you wanted to take this list and try and make it into a competitive tournament list, I would just instantly swap out that Land Raider for 6 Plasma Inceptors. I think that's the thing that this list was missing to do a little bit better. I took the Land Raider because the Death Guard and World Eaters had both just had new rules out. I think Death Guard are still too cheap points-wise. The World Eaters that I played in this tournament actually was running 3 Forge Fiends, with all those ectoplasma cannons, which are ridiculous at killing Marines, and he had 3 Hellbrutes. And I didn't know how to deal with that, so I took a Land Raider, and ironically, I actually did play that World Eaters player, and I did beat him. So this list did beat the quote-unquote triple Forge Fiend, triple Hellbrute spam. I'll cover that in a future video. But yeah, I think the correct choice to have this as a competitive list is 6 Plasma Inceptors. The issue that I have, and sometimes this is an issue for anyone going into a tournament, is if you are aware one of your opponents is going to be a very difficult matchup, you can end up building a list because you run out of ways of beating them. And having played against Death Guard, I realised that, like, I don't think I can beat Death Guard. And I think the thing that I need to do against Death Guard is protect my units. And I was going to protect the units in the Land Raider. That would be the Blade Guard and a squad of Sangre Guard. And that did work, obviously, into the World Eaters. But yeah, probably not the most efficient pick, Land Raider. And we came up in Game 3 when I was at 2-0 against Stat Check Imperial Knights. And the reason they are Stat Check is because they have a crap load of high toughness stuff. That is why sometimes they're called Stat Check. Not to be confused with a YouTube channel called Stat Check. That is a great little YouTube channel. Maybe they're quite big now, actually. They have been growing. It's a great little YouTube channel that talk about Warhammer 40,000 stats every week, and I've played a couple of guys on that channel, so check them out if you're so inclined. But anyway, it's a Stat Check Knight army I was up against called Mr. Inquisitor and the Big Steppers. So it was Canis Rex and a Knight Lancer, and here's the thing. I don't play Knights that often. I actually killed the Lancer before I killed Canis Rex, and I think in hindsight that might have been the wrong way round, because Canis Rex is like a multi-phase guy, right? He shoots quite well, and he combats quite well, and he gets a bunch of like additional bonuses from CP rerolls, because he gets to like reduce the cost of CPs, I think, in both turns. So you can do that. Basically, he kind of comes with 10 free CP, give or take. So this guy works across 2 phases. And I think I should have dealt with him first. But the Knight Lancer was in my face very early, and it does a flat 9 damage swing. I think it's strength 20. So, you know, the logic part of my brain was switched off, and I thought, holy shit, this Knight Lancer is going to kill all my troops. I need to get rid of him. Anyway, he's got 3 Helverns. He's got 3 Warglavies. We kind of know what they are. A unit of Inquisitors, which I think were attached to one of the squads of Sisters of Battle. The Sisters of Battle squad was split into 2 squads and put inside Immolator, so that you could do sticky objectives with the Sisters of Battle. It's quite a clever tactic, I suppose, and push everything. You just run forward, like rush forward with everything, sticking objectives as he goes. That was his plan. It was very much a Knight pressure list. I don't know if I've ever really fought against a Knight pressure list before. Like, I underestimated quite how fast his 2 big Knights were, because they were basically in my deployment, or give her, inches off of it in turn 1. And I deployed my bikes really badly, because I guess Canis Rex was able to move, like, they move fast. He was able to move, like, whatever here and get the tiniest little line of sight through here, and kill my bikes. So that was really bad. And I like to use my bikes for screening, and they could have been useful. They would have been useful. But yeah, so this is a very defensive deployment, right? Like, my Land Raider and stuff are behind here. My Vindicator tanks are off the board. I've got 2 units of Sangre Guard off the board. My Ballistas is way back. My Scouts and Lone Operative are way back. The Tech Marine is way back, and he's Lone Operative. So this is almost as defensive as I could be. The only way I could have made this more defensive, I guess, is if I put the bikes 1 inch off the board behind that piece of terrain back there. But, like, sometimes it's hard. Like, you don't want to be overly defensive, or you don't want to deploy your troops like crazy defensively. We know Blood Angels are struggling in terms of survivability, and that's a hard thing to do, right? Like, I like to have the bikes at least do something, and I felt like behind this big L-shaped ruin, they were pretty good position. Turns out they were not. If I'd gone first, it would have been okay. I could have pushed up right behind the wall, but obviously my opponent went first, and he just ran everything forward. I believe he has maybe like a sticky squad of sisters here, and they're running for the middle, and the other squad of sisters in here, and they're running for this. So he's going to be on 3 objectives turn 1, 4 objectives, including his home field, and he's going to be all over me. And I guess I was not prepared for that. Ideally, maybe I could have started these Vindicator tanks on the board. Could have probably deployed them like right at the back of the board. My thought was, I wasn't expecting this list to be quite so pressure, right? I wasn't expecting him to run across the battlefield at 100 million miles an hour, but he did. I thought that maybe, you know, I guess it's not enough experience against knights, but this was very stat checky. This was a lot of toughness 10 and 12 knights on top of me, basically in turn 1, and I needed to deal with them. And Angelic Inheritors struggles. Sangre Guard are not so good when you only run 3-man squads, and they're only at strength 7 in Angelic Inheritors. They just don't have any weight of fire or a weight of attacks to deal with these big nasty knights, and he's going to use rotate ion shields. I think as well, one thing that I should have done is I should have tried to bait out the ion shields. Like, quite often I used the sustain shots on one of my Vindicator tanks instantly, and then the ion shields. So maybe I should have just shot one of my Vindicator tanks at, but then you know, Oath of Moment, like, I feel like you kind of have to put Oath of Moment on the one target, so he knows that that's the target you're going to be trying to focus down, so he can just safely rotate his ion shields to give him the 4-up invuln. I mean, maybe the play there is to just give up on the Oath of Moment and shoot everything else at the other knight to get him onto that 5-up invuln. I feel like that's like 50-50. So anyway, turn 1 was solid for him, right? He's going to get 15 points. He's literally on the entirety of the middle. He raised some banners because obviously a bunch of his knights are battle line. He established locusts. He did cleanses. Everything was golden turn 1. And you will notice that I did manage to drop that giant big knight. And I think what he did was turn 1, he probably ended up somewhere here. Turn 2, he ended up somewhere here. So I brought in both Vindicator tanks. The other one's just sitting just off the screen here. And we basically shot the living crap out of said big knight and destroyed it. But I really think I should have maybe destroyed this guy earlier, because he's a multi-phase character, right? Like, he can do damage across 2 phases. The big knight will only do damage across 1 phase. I guess the issue I was scared of with the big knight was tank shock, right? Like, tank shock will be a lot of damage as well, and tank shock is very, very good at killing Sangre Guard. We've seen that before. So in my turn, I didn't hold very much at all, you know, like 1 objective, which is literally my home field one. I did get 8 points for Bring It Down. I did get 3 points for sabotage. I have no idea who is sabotaging. And I can't remember who was sabotaging in turn 2. Maybe it was the... Nah, it couldn't have been the unit of Sangre Guard, because that would have been 6 points. But I think this screenshot might be... I think this is like my turn 2. Because I did bring in a rapid ingress unit of Sangre Guard, and I think I did kill whatever he had on this objective, so I have unstickied that. I need to get forward and use that unit to kill a few more things, right? But I basically lost my entire Blade Guard for nothing, because I think I did end up dropping this knight with shooting, but I had disembarked the Blade Guard in order to charge it. One thing I did learn in this event is Blade Guard are super underwhelming at strength 5, even with +1 to wound from the chaplain. Most of the time when you go into nasty enemies, you're going to be wounding on 5s. So I really didn't think the Blade Guard were nearly as good in Angelic Inheritors as I feel like they are in Liberator Assault Group. I guess strength 7 is a really meaningful breakpoint when you come into like toughness 12 enemies. And even toughness 13 against strength 7 is going to be a meaningful breakpoint, right? Because it means that you can wound on 5s, which with your +1 to wound strat, or +1 from the chaplain, lets you wound on 4s. Yeah, so I barely even scratched this guy's pain. He's on 22 wounds, I think. I think he starts on 24 or 25. So it took all of my firepower to drop this big knight. And on another day, one of my Vindicator tanks might have dropped it on his own. But with the rotated ion shields, and I think both my Vindicators rolled badly, I should have CP re-rolled one of these Vindicators, I think. I think they both rolled like a 1 or a 2 for the number of shots. And I had in my head, because I do think CP rerolls is generally a crap way to spend your stratagem, because most of the time if you roll a 1 for the number of shots and you re-roll a 1, re-roll it, you will get a 1 again. It's a really, like, if you think about most stratagems in the game, when you pay the CP, something will happen. You know, like a positive effect will happen. Sometimes with a command reroll, a positive effect will not happen, you just waste your CP. So I think in my brain, I have said to myself, command reroll is a trap, and you shouldn't use it. But I think there is the odd situation that maybe you should use it, and I think the number of shots of a Vindicator into a giant knight that is basically just outside your deployment zone in turn 2, that's going to crush half your army, that is a situation where you should use it. Same as like at the end of the game, if Dante needs to make a 4-up invuln save to win the game, and you've got 2 saves to make and you fail one of them, you should use it, right? So there is situations where you should use command reroll. I think I should have used it here on one of those Vindicator tanks. Anyway, so my secondaries were fine, but like the pressure he was putting on me was a lot. And obviously scoring wise, he's just on every objective. He's just got lots of OC on every objective. I don't have a very efficient way of killing these knights beyond double Vindicator into the same one, right? Maybe a Land Raider gets lucky, maybe the Ballistus Dreadnought gets lucky. I think in this game, neither time did either of those things get lucky. So then, there's another knight over on this objective, and I think I also made a big mistake in this game, right? Like, you can see my scouts are standing over here, and I thought my plan would be to use the scouts to help finish off this knight, which I think this knight was... There was a knight here on 2 wounds. It's really bad to leave knights on low number of wounds, we know that. And I think this knight over here was on like 5 wounds. And I think my plan was, I thought like, oh, the Ballistus Dreadnought with its las cannons and the scouts with its AP1 knives, they should be able to finish off the 5 wounds. Then at least I will... There's nothing else over here, so if I can kill this one knight, I can take this objective and I can score points for multiple turns. In reality, what happened is my scouts completely bounced off this knight, and I should probably have known that because I've used scouts before to help kill a knight. In the GT that I won in the summer, I used a squad of scouts with knives to charge an armiger, and I think I needed to do 1 wound to it, and they did 1 wound to it. And they are at strength 6, whereas these scouts in Angelic Inheritors are at strength 4. I should have known that these guys were probably not going to do the damage I need against the armiger. I could have literally lifted them, I think in turn 2 or 3, and popped them on his home field objective, and they could have stayed there for the entire game, and they could have scored me another 15 points. Instead, they got bogged up in combat with this knight, and they did nothing. And the Ballistus really failed at killing this one knight. In fact, it was in combat against this knight for like 3 fucking turns, and it was shooting his las cannons and its missiles, and it just could not drop this knight. It was a disaster. The combi weapon lieutenant was in there as well. This whole area was a disaster. Maybe if I did the bikes over there as well, we could have finally dropped it. But yeah, this went really, really badly. I couldn't believe this knight survived for as long as it did. Meanwhile, both my Vindicator tanks did survive, and my Land Raider apparently did survive again in a round of combat. He did like 9 damage to the Land Raider or something. By a miracle, I spiked the invuns and it saved, or spiked like a 5-up save or something. So Land Raider did linger around. But again, this knight here with 22 wounds was a big problem. So at least at this point, I do have Sangre Guard standing back here. I think they must have done one of the actions that I needed to do, and I put another unit of Sangre Guard in from reserve over here, basically to jump forward and start mopping up, taking the map back, and killing things. And I did bring in my Blade Guard Ancient over here to eventually hold his home field objective, but if the scouts had been over earlier, I could have maybe held both its home field and this side field one. So I could have been done a lot better with primary, because we did start killing things. It just took me too long to get killing things. So this is the turn also that really hindered me, right? So like Dante so as you can see, the Land Raider did by some miracle survive, and I fell it back, and the reason that I fell it back is so that more things could shoot the big knight. I think in hindsight as well, maybe the Land Raider could have just stayed in combat and shot everything at combat, and we could have used the blast weaponry to like maybe finish off a couple of other smaller knights. This one over the objective, that Vindicator tank could have moved over, finished that bloody thing off for sure, and then I could have maybe used the scouts to get onto another objective, and my other Vindicator tank over here should have probably just unloaded on one of the Warglavies. Leave, maybe, yeah, I think the problem was I felt like I probably couldn't leave this guy in combat, but the thing about knights is, that's 500 points, and it's not actually really scoring him all that much. Sure, it's denying me holding my home field objective, but if I kill some of these other armigers, then I could take over the rest of the map. And I made a couple of big mistakes here, right? So when I fell back, I shot this guy with everything that's around it, right? Which is like, there's a Tech Marine in there, there's 2 Vindicator tanks, one of them's just still off screen, still surviving down here. There's Dante's unit of Sangre Guard, there's a Chaplain is still alive, and this guy's got Oath of Moment on him as well, and I only did 10 damage to him. So, like, I fluffed my shooting on him so hard. So he is on 12 wounds. So I must have established Locust. I think it was in his DZ with the Blade Guard Ancient over there. That's what we did, but obviously we weren't holding our stronghold. I guess because I had Dante right here, and I was looking at this big knight. 12 wounds left. I felt like if I killed him, there might be a chance that I could come back into this game. But realistically, what I should have done was use Dante to kill either of these other knights. And the thing about Sangre Guard is Strength 6 is a really bad breakpoint to fight Toughness 12. Strength 6 into these Toughness 10 knights would have been a lot better, because I did play both for lethal hits and lance on this unit. And I think they left Rex on like 4 wounds. And what's worse is Rex then killed Dante, and I gave up 3 CP, because if he kills my leader, he gets 3 CP. So if Dante had actually gone onto the middle, they would have killed that 2 wound knight, 100%. So I would have killed off that 2 wound knight. I mean, Dante could have... Maybe he doesn't survive if he kills off that 2 wound knight, but maybe he could have gone this way. I suppose I could have taken some incidental flamer fire from the Overwatch, maybe. But actually not sure if he could have Overwatched, because I think that had charged into my Vindicator tank. So, yeah, this was a misplay. Like, Dante went into Rex with 12 wounds left, with lethals and with lance, and with AP3, and with the 3 Sangre Guard, and with the Chaplain, I think, and with the Tech Marine, and we didn't drop him. We leave him on like 4 wounds. And in this ruin, like, if that drops, there's maybe a slight chance I can get back into this game. But no, we left that guy alive for way too long. And we also left this guy alive for way too long. Like I said, he's like sitting around on 6 wounds. We left this guy in the middle, holding the middle for way too long. He's sitting around on 2 wounds. So sometimes when you play knights, there's small margins between killing a knight completely or leaving it on a low number of wounds and losing the game. I don't think that's what happened here, right? Like, I left too many knights on like average wounds, but I also spent far too long trying to kill those 2 big knights. I really needed to, like, I needed, like, one of the Vindicators to pop off and brutalize that first knight from one Vindicator tank. And then do really well with the other 3. Because I did have 3 other shooting units, right? Another Vindicator tank, another Land Raider, and a Ballistus Dreadnought. And the problem was in the first turn, it took both Vindicator tanks and the Land Raider and the Ballistus, and I disembarked guys to charge to finish just 1 knight. So that was way too much of my firepower. Yeah, so, and also the scouts is a huge problem. So, as the game went on, I guess maybe we drop another Armiger. This guy lingers for like another whole turn, getting to shoot and fight. I think that's 4 wounds. Yeah, I think he was on 4 wounds. So I only did 8 damage to him with Dante, 3 Sangre Guard, a Chaplain, and a Tech Marine with Oath of Moment, right? Like, I mean, and the CP strats for Dante as well. So this was bad. This guy, like I said, is lingering forever. In the middle of the map, I actually lost a bunch of guys to like 2 Armigers charged into the Sangre Guard and all but killed what I had left. I was taking him off another objective. I did have my Blade Guard on his home field objective, but like his primary was just, it was great, right? Like 55 points essentially with the 5 points from banners for primary. And at the end of the game, like, sure, I've got my Vindicator tanks alive. I'm still not holding my home field. I've still not killed this damn knight. I mean, they've been slogging out for like 3 turns. I don't know how many wounds my guy has there, but it looks like a 9 maybe. I mean, I don't remember my guy being low, but apparently these two guys can't kill each other. And yeah, I mean, the Warglavies killed a bunch of the Sangre Guard that I tried to put in the middle. So maybe if we step back, like maybe if I just leave this knight here, he's going to kill a Land Raider anyway. Maybe he kills one of the Vindicator tanks. They're not really helping me at that point. Maybe I could have killed the knight in the middle. That would have maybe opened up a bit of space. The big knights moving through terrain probably surprised me a little bit, because I don't play against knights all that often, and they didn't do that last edition. They had to move around the terrain. So the speed, I wasn't really prepared for the speed of them. Maybe I could have, like, it would have probably helped to start both Vindicator tanks on the table. But with everything pushing up forward, I did feel like he had enough firepower to drop those pretty easily. No invulnerable saves on Marines also is a real problem. This is the game that probably made me feel that, like, my Angelic Inheritors list has an over-reliance on Vindicator tanks. And in some of the other games, the Vindicator tanks are amazing. I think that's the curse of the Vindicator tank, right? You take it to a tournament, and I've definitely had it, like, I've played games on my battle reports where Vindicator tanks are by far the MVP. You know, like, they roll that, you know, every time you roll for a number of shots, they roll a 5 or 6, and they just blow up things for an entire game straight. And that happened in this tournament as well, and it happened sometimes when I needed it to happen. In this game, it was the precise opposite. Like, the Vindicator tanks just swung low every time I needed them. I also felt like the Plasma Inceptors would have been brilliant to drop in early and start picking off those knights in the backfield. AP3 into the Armigers with Twin Linked would have been very useful. There is the one worry about Inceptors into, like, the anti-fly 2-up of the Armigers. But yeah, you know, like, we did kill a bunch of stuff, but it was too little too late, and the primary just massively got away from us. I probably struggled a bit with target priority. His backfield was so empty as well. And yeah, the scouts could have been in that backfield. My Ancient could have been in that backfield. I could have scored better just in primary. I mean, like, secondary was bad, primary was bad. This was the one game in the tournament where my secondary was actually pretty bad, and it's probably because I failed a bunch of stuff, right? Like, I didn't manage to defend Stronghold, I didn't even manage to extend battle lines, I couldn't kill that one damn Armiger on the top objective, and I couldn't storm hostile as well. I just as a stat check army, this just completely unsettled me, and I lost 56 to 89, right? I should have been more forceful with deploying all my units. I wasn't expecting him to be quite as aggressive or quite so pressure based. If you roll a CP if you roll in the 1 for the number of Vindicator shots, like I've said, command reroll really is a trap, but in this situation, I probably needed to do it and reroll the number of shots. Remember, when you're playing knights, the way you beat them is you finish knights off, you don't leave them around with 2 or 3 wounds. And it is probably better to kill Armigers rather than try and kill the big ones, because if there's no Armigers on the table, he is not scoring anything. The problem is when those big ones are right in front of your face, they are the ultimate distraction carnifex, and you start worrying about what that big one's going to kill. My opponent in this game actually finished 4th out of 40 players, but on another day, right, like in the very next game, my Vindicator tank goes and pops off and does like 22 damage, into the first thing it shoots at, and I was like, wow, if that had done 22 damage, the first Vindicator tank, into that first knight, and I could have shot the other Land Raider, the other Vindicator, the other Ballistas into Canis Rex, this could have been a very different game, right? Like, but also, I think maybe leaving Canis Rex and going after the more melee knight was the wrong call, because the melee knight's gonna kill stuff in melee. It doesn't really have any shooting. Maybe it's got like a stubber, or maybe it's got like a multi-laser. It doesn't have anything meaningful. I'm going to go back to the list. What has it got? It's got a shock lance. I don't even know what a shock lance is. I think it's like strength 6, 0 AP, 2 damage, maybe gets like D6 shots. Whereas Canis gets a pretty nasty, like, las cannon that's got like flat 4 damage. It vaporized my Blade Guard veterans, that's for sure. So maybe I should have shot him down first. Maybe try to bait out the ion shield or something like that. You know, sustained hits one Vindicator into the non-Oath of Moment target to try and bait that ion shield out. I don't know. But this was a horrible game. I probably knew it was over way too early. Or by turn 3 or something, but like, I thought toughness 10 knights, or I thought Knight Army was going to be difficult. I found them difficult when I was playing Sons of Sanguinius in the summer, because I did come up against knights on my run to the GT victory in the summer, and the way that I beat them in the summer was like, I had those little 5-man squads of Death Company led by the Chaplain, which just all had power fists. So they basically had, what was it, like 25 power fists, re-rolling all hits, +1 to wound at strength 10, and they also did mortals every time they activated, and those units were very, very useful for taking out knights. Even if they lost, like, I would say, like, 1 guy, they could probably still kill an armiger. Maybe even 2, right? Like 3 guys with power fists and the chaplain with a power fist could maybe still kill an armiger, +1 to wound, re-rolling all hits. Bear in mind, in the summer, they also had Infernal Pistol on every guy. So without that, that is a scalpel that Blood Angels had. We could scalpel out a knight. We've got 2 units of Death Company. We can jump 12 inches. We could charge. We could advance and charge. If the knight charges us, we could fight on death, and we can just scalpel out those knights, right? Which we just don't have at the moment. Might have been easier in Liberator Assault Group, but yeah, this game was probably... do you know what? It's not my worst in this event, but... I felt like it didn't have very much answers, and I think this is the game that puts me off, probably, Angelic Inheritors more than anything, because it does just say to me, like, Angelic Inheritors needs a lot of shooting, which is fine, but I don't know if I particularly like double Vindicator spam. They're very swingy. I talked a lot about that last week. Okay, if you're getting any value out of today's video, please do consider subscribing or liking. My name is John. I'm here every week. We're talking Blood Angels, or we're talking Space Marines in general, because this week again, I am playing Stormlance. I played Stormlance Ultramarines last week. If you didn't see last week's battle report, Stormlance Ultramarines is a little bit bonkers, and I'm going to have just played them against World Eaters, so we'll see how that goes. Next up, Devoted of Yened. Is that how you say it? Yened? I'm not really sure. But this was an Eldari list. And this was a very, very difficult game. So let's touch very quickly on what we've got. We've got Visarge. We've got Urain. Sorry, my English is terrible at pronunciation. We've got an Autarch, another Autarch, and a Yunari Archon. We've got the 10 Kabbalite Warriors. We've got a small unit of Fire Dragons. We've got 2 units of Highland Banshees. We've got 2 units of Warp Spiders, unit of Incubi, Shroud Runners, 3 Warlocks on jet bikes, 3 Wraith Lords, which is basically the Dreadnoughts, a Wave Serpent, and then a Venom. So, lots of little trading units. Warp Spiders obviously very, very fast. Highland Banshees have fight first. The jet bikes are just a nuisance. And I hadn't really looked at this detachment too much before I played it, and afterwards I want to say that I think this detachment is awesome, right? Like, it has some really, really good stratagems. It has a bunch of ways that they can get fight first. And the movement stuff that this detachment can do is probably what elevates it to the next level. So, like, the strats look pretty good, and some of the characters look pretty decent, but it's the agile maneuvers, which is that new mechanic Eldar get, where they can use the dice to make all these sort of like agile maneuvers, such as like additional movement or reactive movement. And this I must say, I played Ricky, and this isn't the whole list, but this was the units he put out for painting. Ricky played this list like really, really well. Ironically, well, I've got a lot to cover in this game against Yunari, but yeah, this was quarter deployments, something like this, and you know, it was like the standard, like, Howling Banshees are going to attack here, jet bikes are going to go this way. There's a big fight first unit in behind this wall that will be the Incubi plus the characters. And then we've got the dreadnoughts hidden in the backfield as well, and some of those not the Shroud Runners, were they called Shroud Runners? Yeah, the Shroud Runners as well. So, I set up something like this, and we were going to play Sabotage, but Sabotage with 4 objectives. Now, Sabotage is Alpha and Omega, and one objective gets removed, or only one objective from No Man's Land stays to the very end, right? So a little bit more interesting to have 4 objectives, hidden supplies, I guess. So 2 things I want to say about supply drop. I want to go second for sure, because I think supply drop gives the player that's going second a giant advantage, because they can just hold back a unit and then make sure they take the final objective on the final turn, which is like worth 15 points, which is bonkers. I went first, so that was bad. And then the objective that stays is the top left one. So the one that he can just happily move everything behind and be out of line of sight from all my stuff. So like, those 2 things are like horrible. Like if it had been this one over here, where my Land Raider can just like pull in behind, that would have been pretty nice. But it just wasn't. So, realistically, like I can try and hold some of these ones out here and get a little bit ahead, knowing that he's probably going to have 15 at the very end. Like he could literally stage a unit here with the intention of like keep them there the whole game and jump out. And because he had a giant fight first unit, and the other interesting thing with this detachment is at the start of the fight phase, any unit that he's got that's below full strength, I think, this detachment lets him pick that unit to get fight first on as well. So he's got potential fight first all over the place. And I had very little experience playing Eldar in 10th edition. I think this might be my first game against them with the new codex. But this also, like when I read through their agile maneuvers on paper, I thought like, their agile maneuvers sound cool. I don't know how strong they are. Seeing them in practice by an experienced player, they are crazy strong. I can understand why Eldari have like a 59% win rate. Like, my opponent played this game very, very well. Yeah, so I mean, I'm up against it, right? So I know what I need to do to beat Eldar, right? Like you have to hit them as hard as you can and as fast as you can, because they don't have a ton of survivability normally. But this sort of threw me for 6, right? I'm like, straight away, like literally the first roll of the game, I'm like, oh shit. So I have to get this, which I can't, like, there's no cover on here for me to be on here. Even if by some miracle I can hold this at the start of turn 5, the chance of him not blowing me off of it at the end of turn 5 are like next to 0. So I have to get over here and contest it. Yeah, I do have one piece of terrain I can kind of stage behind, and the 2 units I rapid ingressed, I put them both in here, a unit of Sangre Guard turn 2, a unit of Sangre Guard turn 3, and I did attack this, but I just didn't have enough meaningful damage. So, turn 1, supply drop. I actually ended up scoring nothing on primary in turn 1, or turn 2 as it was, because I was weak on this objective. And because I was weak on it, he just jumped a unit of warp spiders like 24 inches onto the objective and just OC'd me, which was a problem. Most of the guys in, like, my lieutenant that's standing on that objective is OC1. So that was a problem. I think I advanced the Land Raider. There was no one for it to shoot in turn 1, but it didn't quite reach, right? I also hid my 2 tanks because I'm aware of how much damage Eldar can do with all their Bright Lances, and hid my bikes. Bikes over here weren't super useful. They're still going to need to move down here and move across. I did at least score some containment with my scouts, and score some area denial with my scouts. And in turn 2, I did do some extending of battle lines and some skewering No Man's Land. So at least we're scoring points, maybe not in primary. The issue I had with this list, though, was like, he had a lot of fast-moving stuff, like the warp spiders. It meant, like, unless I was super strong on an objective, he's just going to jump something onto it and out OC it. He had fast-moving units behind here, again with agile maneuvers. He had the jet bikes. When I do finally kill this jet bike, he paid 1 CP for sticky objectives. I did not know he had that. I guess that's what happens when you don't play. Like, if you're a weekend warrior like me and you're not going to tournaments all the time, it can be quite difficult. So I did come out, I did area denial, I did get some points. I should have probably disembarked the Blade Guard onto here, but even then, if the Blade Guard were on there, I think I would, unless he rolls a 1 for his warp spiders, I still think I don't hold that, right? Because why would because I'm only OC5. The Blade Guard plus the Lone Operative Lieutenant, Blade Guard plus a Chaplain plus the Lone Operative Lieutenant is only OC5, and 5 Warp Spiders is OC5. So I don't hold this. Maybe these guys could have touched one of these objectives, but the chances of them living are slim to none, right? Like, he was able to unload a bunch of guys right over the wall. I think this was the unit of Cabalites. So they're going to kill a few scouts, right? So, like, I can't hold this here either. So yeah, this was difficult for me. I didn't know what to do. I probably didn't want to be going first as well, like I said. I did start moving the Land Raider up. I did start putting the Blade Guard and the Lieutenant over here, but then I even put the Scouts over here to try and screen any shenanigans that he was gonna have. But Howling Banshees came out here, and I just couldn't kill the Howling Banshees. I think a bunch of times he rolled really good on the saves. I actually think it's kind of ironic sometimes that Eldar are supposed to be super weak because they've got these 5-up invuln saves. They always seem to spike their invulns, and they actually end up being stronger than friggin' 2-wound Marines, but that's just the way it goes sometimes with Eldar. So I finally popped my tanks out to kill some of the stuff that I could see. I put a Vindicator tank in from reserve over here and killed a bunch of jet bikes that were sitting on the objective. Again, I think he just stickied it. So every time I killed him on an objective, it didn't matter. He was sticking it. And also I was having to expose units. And that was a huge problem. So, and then I couldn't lock anything down. And I think what he had over here was like the little unit of fire dragons. You'd be surprised how fast they move with agile maneuvers. I think they can add 2 inches to their move, and then they can advance. So the little unit of fire dragons managed to get into this piece of terrain, blow up one of my Vindicators. Yes, like in the second I shoot anything at them, I think I shot them with like the Land Raider or something, killed a couple of them, then they can just make a reactive move and pop behind the terrain so anyone else that was out there can't shoot them as well. So this little unit of fire dragons for 110 points was kind of his MVP. I believe they killed a Vindicator tank and they killed the Land Raider. Like, it was bonkers. Over here, my bikes ended up getting locked down, so they couldn't get onto the objective. My Vindicator tanks over here really didn't survive either against the Bright Lances. So I think in this turn, I think I lost both Vindicator tanks. The Sangre Guard did come in here. They pushed forward. The Sangre Guard that were in here actually ended up jumping. Like, the Land Raider moved forward one more turn, and then they actually jumped in here. And they did kill like, Dante and his 3 guys did kill a bunch of stuff in here. And then they did push on and take his home field objective, but it was kind of also too little too late. And the other thing about it was, I would have liked to go earlier with Dante and his 3 guys, but Dante and his 3 guys couldn't engage here because he had like the 10 incubi with 2 characters attached. And when I did finally charge those 10 incubi with the 2 characters attached, and I did actually kill like 5 of them up front or something, like I shot them, I tank shocked them, when I finally did manage to engage on them, just the characters, because there was 2 characters attached to that 10-man unit of incubi, and because they had fight first, just the 2 characters basically wiped my entire unit of Sangre Guard and left the 1 captain that was leading them on 1 wound. Like, the fight first was really, really strong. I actually had killed some of them earlier as well, but of course they regenerate at the start of the command phase. Maybe it was a CP, maybe it was a character ability, but any that I killed were regenerated. So it was actually my Tech Marine was in combat with the Fire Dragons and the fight first, and I thought, let's clear down the fight first people. And then they all regenerated, and he rolled pretty hot on the 5s on that. I think the Tech Marine ended up doing, because I think the Tech Marine had 8 attacks. And I think he was hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, wounding on 2s, rerolling 1s. I think he had to make like 7 saves. He passed like fucking 5 of them, or I think it was maybe even 6 of them. So yeah, I targeted the wrong unit, and then he regenerated it, because if I'd killed the Fire Dragons, they wouldn't have regenerated. So not knowing your opponent, I mean, it hurts, right? Like, I just didn't know everything he could do. Over here, like I said, the Howling Banshees Banshees and Warp Spiders kept flooding this objective, and they kept taking it off of me, and I kept not scoring. It was rough. It was only like turn 4 I finally get 8 friggin' points. So the game's over at that point, because he's on like 31 for primary. And like I said, he's going to get 15 at the end, because I can't take this off him. So this was a very difficult game for me. Like I said, Dante was left in the Land Raider, possibly too long, but he couldn't go into that 10-man fight first squad. The Blade Guard also kept failing. I think at the end, the friggin' Howling Banshee squad, like 5 of them, I think eventually I killed the Howling Banshee. Maybe that was it. The 8 points, or the Land Raider, the 8 points. Primary was an absolute disaster. I felt like I couldn't hold anything against this list. And, you know, like, this was the unit of Sandguard, 3 Sandguard, plus a character. Look how many Incubi are left. There's like 1 Incubi. So the 2 characters alone killed the 3 Sandguard and took 4 wounds off the captain. They charged to their literal death. I think I shot them with the Ballistus Dreadnought, and I think I tank shot them with the Ballistus Dreadnought as well. So killed 9 Incubi, and I still couldn't deal with the fight first. I did kill his Marked for Death unit, though. You think he marked for death the Wave Serpent. Dante jumped out, got over here, killed the Wave Serpent. That was something. And you know, the one time in this tournament that Dante's Battle Shock went off, that's when it went off. So he Battle Shocked like a stupid warlock that's sitting back here doing absolutely nothing. I'm like, cool. Every other time in this event when I needed Battle Shock at -1, everybody's passed it. But this one lone warlock that's literally doing nothing, cool. Dante Battle Shocked him for, you know, for him to auto pass it at the start of his phase. How meaningful. We did actually start doing behind enemy lines. We did do some recover assets. I don't even... I guess maybe a lone operative over here, or there's a chaplain hiding behind doing recover assets. My opponent is doing stuff like sabotage, engaging on fronts. He's still got 2 full health dreadnoughts hiding behind this wall. I was never able to get to them. I was never able to see them. I can't remember. So over here it was 2 squads of Howling Banshee. Sorry, 2 squads of Warp Spiders and a squad of Howling Banshees managed to keep me off that objective for like 4 turns, because the other squad of Howling Banshees is down here. Yeah, and I can't remember what this was strung out here. Maybe it was like another unit of Cabalite Warriors. Dante and that went and killed them at the end, and at least behind enemy lines got me a few points there. There was 3 Fire Dragons still lingered around the whole game. Wasn't able to lock them down. Shot them a bunch of times with the Infiltrators as well. Just couldn't get rid of them. So yeah, this was one of my hardest games. Or this was probably the hardest game of the tournament. The best way to beat Eldari is to hit them hard and fast, and I just couldn't do it, right? Like, I just didn't have line of sight when I needed it. My forces... I hate supply drop. Like, I don't want to blame the map, but, like, that map was horrible for me. Eldari had a ton of movement shenanigans, which I just felt like I probably couldn't deal with. Dodge all maneuvers. A few times he used it really well. Extra movement on characters, extra movement on the Fire Dragons, reactive moves, all sorts of nonsense. I think he even gets a reactive move at the end of each turn if I kill one of his units. So if I kill any unit, he gets a reactive move. Like, this is the game, more so than any other game I've ever played, that I realized just how powerful out of phase movement is, right? Like, I know out of phase movement is powerful, but when you have it everywhere, which, I mean, I don't think he had it everywhere, but it definitely felt like he had a lot of ways that you could get out of phase movement, and it was very, very powerful. Combine that with the fact that, like, he has multiple fight first. I think he has 3 fight first, and then any unit that's at low strength, he can pick his fight first, which potentially gives him 4 fight first. It's like countering me very, very hard, right? So my charging options were limited, and even if I did charge, he's got a pretty good -1 wound strat, which you could play on an infantry unit to make it that, like, my charge would be less meaningful, right? I found it mega hard to lock down any of his units. I found it hard to finish off the units. When I finally did lock them down, he spiked 5 up invulnerable saves. Sometimes that happens. Like I said, I think one time he had to take 8 invulnerable saves on the Incubi, and he failed 1 or something in that nature. It was horrible. And then he just revived the model. Like, that's when you know you're having a bad game, right? So my opponent actually finished 2nd in this event. He played really well. I believe he used to be on Team Scotland, so Gav knew him. But I feel like with a different map, it could have been a bit closer. But, like, I think my list just wasn't able to deal with the threats. The this game, I guess, combined with the Knights game, maybe more so this game made me feel that to play Angelic Inheritors at the highest level, you need those 6 Plasma Inceptors. Because that 10-man unit of Incubi that I couldn't deal with, I could have dropped the Plasma Inceptors, used their like 6-inch meteoric deep strike to put them in a like, there would have been space because of the smaller 6-inch bubble. I could have tried to get them 18 inches away. I could have absolutely, oath the moment, sustained hits. I could have nuked the hell out of them. And if I managed to nuke out that fight first unit, then I feel like I could have engaged a couple of turns earlier, maybe with some of the other Sangre Guard. The Land Raider didn't really help me at all in this game. In fact, it just got popped by like a friggin' 5-man squad of fire dragons that cost him 100 points. Like, Land Raider was just a liability. So my list wasn't great against this army. My secondaries were alright, but yeah, the primary was just a disaster. Eldar do have a lot of cheap units. I guess there's a lot of cheap trading units, and a lot of cheap units with movement shenanigans. I couldn't react to that. Maybe if I'd had a couple of Baal Predators, I could have been better equipped. I mean, no Land Raider, a Baal Predator, and maybe, I guess, a Baal Predator and 3 Plasma Inceptors doesn't quite fit, but I think you need the 6 Plasma Inceptors. I think if you want to be playing Angelic Inheritors to the highest level, you need 2 Vindicator tanks and 6 Plasma Inceptors, and then the 3 squads of Sangre Guard, and that is a non-negotiable. That is what makes that list strong. Yeah, that's what I would do. 100% that's what I would do, but I still think this would have been a very difficult match. I think if it's not supply drop, maybe it's 10 points cheaper. Maybe if I go second, it's 10 points. But I don't think I'm winning this game. I think my opponent played it really, really well as well. Obviously, a very serious and just a very knowledgeable player. Like, he played it very, very well. So yeah, hats off to Ricky. Maybe, you know, maybe inexperience against the Eldar Codex, but yeah, I always find Eldar difficult, man. Like, yes, they are glass cannons, but they, you know, sometimes they actually have a bit of durability, and this list seemed to mix things pretty well. I believe he played Necrons, so he would have been, he played on the top table for first and second place against the guy who won the tournament with Necrons. So yeah, this was the GT. This was loss. This was my one loss there against the Eldari. This was my one loss against Imperial Knights. So yeah, it didn't feel like small margins. It felt like getting 4-1 in this event would have needed some sort of mega performance for me. This is a bigger GT than the last couple I've been to. This was 40 players. So good to get to a bigger event. Good to play against stronger opponents. But I'd been a bit down on myself since this event, right? Like I said, I struggled to ignore the noise about World Eaters and Death Guard, and I did actually end up playing World Eaters in my 5th game. So after getting beat by Ricky, I had to refocus for my 5th game against World Eaters, which was the 3 Forge Fiends, 3 Hellbrute span. So we'll come to that next time. I do think Angelic Inheritors is a harder and more rewarding to play version of Blood Angels, but it does require like very specific units. I mean, we've seen some people do it with Desolation Marines. So maybe there's, you know, Desolation Marines and Devastators, maybe there is something to be said there. I mean, Desolation Marines would have been useful at just killing a bunch of Eldar indirect. Maybe that could have been it. But, I mean, yeah, Desolation Marines are not my favourite unit. I think they're a bit quirky. I think they're a bit expensive. Maybe we'll see them get some points drops. I think that Angelic Inheritors definitely has fewer viable builds than Lag. I also really didn't like Blade Guard. I just want to throw that out there. Like, I think Blade Guard, on paper, in this detachment, seem okay, right? Like, they're nice and cheap. They get 4 attacks. They're strength 5. In reality, they are super underwhelming. You know, I think the +1 to wound you think is good, but most of the time they're just going to be wounding on 6s into enemy armor. So like the +1 to wound is almost meaningless. Meaningless? Yeah. So I really didn't like Blade Guard in this detachment. I think Blade Guard are so much better in Liberator Assault Group. I can understand starting a Liberator Assault Group list with 18 Blade Guard. Like, I think that is pretty cool. I would not take more than... I don't even think I'd take 6 Blade Guard in Angelic Inheritors. The breakpoints are very meaningful. I think this event maybe made me think about, like, breakpoints are more meaningful than I gave them credit sometime, because Dante leading Sanguinary Guard into toughness 12 is generally very, very bad as well, right? Like, they are only on wounding of 6s. If you wound on 6s, you will never do enough damage, I feel like. So yeah, a tough event. I'm signing up to another GT in like 8 weeks, so we'll keep the ball rolling. I'll play something different. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to see how I did use that Angelic Inheritors list to beat Liberator Assault Group, and that's where it really gets interesting, right? Because like Liberator Assault Group is seen as stronger, but Angelic Inheritors can beat it quite effectively. I felt like I beat Liberator Assault Group quite effectively. So let's hope by the time you're watching this, Blood Angel's got some points drops, because right now I believe we're like a 44% win rate army. And if you want to play Blood Angels to the highest level, you either have to take Angelic Inheritors and take those 3 units I talked about, or you have to take Liberator Assault Group and take a crap load of cheap units like Jump Intercessors and Blade Guard and ignore most of the Blood Angels codex. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird time for Blood Angels right now. Thank you so much for sticking with me and getting to the end of the video. I hope you learned something. If you've never played against Eldar, read up on their agile maneuvers and just think of all the things that they can do, because they are bonkers strong. So, link in the video description if you want to support me on Patreon for like a couple of bucks a month. If you're buying any new models, and bear in mind the new Warhammer chapter approved cards come out tomorrow, so if you need a set of the new cards for the next year of 10th edition, then please consider using one of the affiliate links in the video description. Element Games in the UK or Wargame Portal in the US. Every sale on those platforms supports the channel with like $1, so I do appreciate it. Thank you ever so much for watching, guys. Have a great evening. I will see you in the next video. Oh, by the blood are we made strong. Peace.